Welcome to the Legal Advice in Paradise podcast, brought to you by www.legaladviceinparadise.com. Even in one of the most beautiful places in the world, life can be litigious. On this podcast, the best and brightest legal minds gather to help you navigate your way through every legal question you may face. This program will help you know your rights, know what steps to take, and help you find the best legal representation, all in simple, easy to understand terms. And now, here's your host, Justine Gronwald.
Aloha, Agents of Change. This is Justine at Legal Advice in Paradise. This is part 2 of our story of Camp Agape. In part 1, we talked to the creator and founder of Camp Agape, Pastor Roy Yamamoto, and how he started the program and the purpose of the program and how you can volunteer and lend a hand. And then we mentioned that we're going to bring 2 people on the show that actually went through the program, benefited from it. And we have Dennis Tamura here and his daughter Wendy. And they're going to tell their story of how Camp Agape came into their lives and helped them. So why don't we start with you, Dennis, about your story. And you are going to share how you were incarcerated and part of that revolving door that in my episodes with Elwin Ahu and Aiona, we talk about that revolving door. So,
okay, yes, I was in that revolving door from the late 80s, and I did prison time in 1993 when Wendy was just born. I was in OCCC, and I got sentenced and transferred to Halava. So. Paroled out like 3 years later, over 3 years later, and I had physical custody of Wendy, but I really didn't have any kind of support system. It was just, the thinking was I pulled my time, so leave me alone, and so that doesn't work. You know, I find today that I do need support group. I do need positive people around me. But I was very hard-headed, so I kept on going in and out. Ended up staying out maybe 6 months with Wendy, and at that time I lost my parental rights because after all the effort I think they made with me, I really disappointed them that I relapsed. So they shipped Wendy off to Texas, and she got adopted. And so I had some consequences as sitting in prison and finding out that I lost my rights. And
yeah, and it was surprising because when I interviewed Aiona and we talked about drug court and the program that they had, it surprised me that they could take parental rights away. For me, it was something new I never heard of. So you are a product of that, that
yes.
They took the parental rights away. Wow.
But in prison is where I had a chance to read my Bible and practice faith. And I had to, because I was really powerless in there. All I could do was go to the law library and see if I could learn how I could get my daughter back. And I couldn't, I thought I had all the arguments to appeal the adoption, but still I lost. So I prayed. I said, God, I don't know how you're going to do this, but I know you can bring my daughter home because that's what you want, and that's what she wants. So I really believed that, and I think it happened. The story was told on Casey Kasem's Top 40 radio about Wendy being leaving Hawaii and adopted in a foreign land. Texas is different, but she had a very nice auntie, her half-brother's auntie, who adopted her. Very wealthy people, but Wendy wanted to be home with her family. So I believe God really heard Wendy's cries, and miraculously I finally could communicate with her, because for some reason my letters aren't getting to her, because she said, if you want your daughter, let me know. If not, we're going, it's like telling her you can have her. So she adopted Wendi because she couldn't have any children too. So she really felt for her kin. But when she found out that I wanted Wendi home and Wendi wanted to be home, she gave up her parental rights as the adopted parents, which is very rare.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be hard to reverse once it's all in place.
She told me that I believe she should be with her family. And shortly after that, she couldn't get pregnant. Shortly after that, she had a daughter.
Isn't that
She
how it
was
usually
blessed.
works? When you're trying and then when you relax about the whole thing, next thing you know,
It was
you're
a
having
blessing.
kids. Yeah.
So, I cannot avoid saying how God was working in all this, from the very beginning, from her birth, which she'll tell you about, and through the process of even my relapsing and going back to in and out of prison. It was just something like I thought that's the person I am, and this is the role I must play in society, is in and out of prison. Then here comes Hope Probation from Judge and I was put on Hope Probation in 2011, and I left Roy's ministry, which I used to help, in 2005 on December, and I stayed out on my run till 2011, and I got a new charge, but put on Hope Probation, and
that's a new program, Hope Probation.
Hope Probation is a great program. It's created by Judge Steve and what it does is it gives us flash consequences. So if we are told we have to call in every day, and if we have that color, they assign us colors, we have to submit to a urinalysis. If we're dirty, we get arrested right there and taken to jail for a timeout.
So it's instant consequences.
Yeah, and that worked for me because, well, I had to go back to jail like 2 other times, and because they still had that attitude where, well, come and get me, I'm already violated. So I had to sit out for 60 days my first time, and then around 7 months the second time. And you get tired. I got tired of going in and out of the revolving door, because just to be processed in going into jail is sickening. Just to be humiliated.
Yeah, I was gonna. The word demeaning and came to mind because each time, right?
It's so much people that there's no time to dilly-dally. Just the guards just gotta process you in the facility, but you're around a whole bunch of different kind of people, and that gets kind of frustrating too. And it's just everything that we go through is, what do we expect? We don't expect hotel room and stuff, but it's very unpleasant, and that's the hardest part of going through intake. And I just got tired of it, but it wasn't what my mind making up totally. It was me coming out of jail, going into Yamamoto, relapsing 2 times, and that's how I had that time. But then when I got out, Wendi took me to this prayer, it's like a prayer rally at the stadium. And then I caught myself, I noticed that I was getting back involved with the church, and it felt good. And for a while, for the first maybe so many months, it was like I was out of my body watching another person. So and I just kept on going because it was good, and I had to make the choice. And one of the hardest choices was me giving up my old friends, and I made up all kind of reasons why I should remain dedicated to them, because they saved my life and this and that. But finally I realized through this lady named Keola at Yamamoto that I have to give up, because those are actually triggers. So I got slowly educated in programs, and by sitting in jail and thinking, what am I doing here?
And your charges were because of drugs, or
yes,
was
yes.
it?
It was usually either second degree thefts to support my habit, or that was the majority of my charges, or possession of drugs, and that's what my last charge was. But I did see, what really helped me was my probation officer knew my old probation officer from my first charge, and she said, I've heard about you. If you do really good, you do really good, but if you're bad, you're really bad.
Extremes.
So it was kind of like, okay, there's no in between. I just either gonna be good or bad, and I don't want to be bad anymore. So I just decided that I'm gonna do everything right, and I have to just abide by everything and just be grateful to be out of jail. And plus, my daughter wrote me a letter when I was in jail, and she said, we've got 3 chicks here, which was my mom, her, and my older sister, who adopted Wendy so she could come home. And she said, we need somebody to help do the repairs, be around the house, like to protect us.
And how old were you, Wendy, when you wrote that letter? Do you remember?
Around 19, I think.
Oh.
And that really woke me up, because I thought, oh, I'm such a solid criminal. I don't...
You believed your story.
Pardon me?
You believed your own story that you're a...
Well, I had this idea of what kind of criminal I didn't want to be. And I just was in that world where this is a good criminal. A good criminal doesn't tell on anybody. A good criminal has integrity. And, and as funny as it seemed, but when Wendy told me that, it just woke me up like, wow, all the time I thought I was somebody. Because people on the street, they liked me, they respected me, and I, like the Bible says, you got to give the right weights. But anyway, but when Wendy told me that, I thought, man, I'm nothing if I don't take care of my family, especially when they're asking me for help. And that, I think, was what stuck with me. And
But when did you first start going to Camp Agape? Because it sounds like, when you were born, he was already, having that situation of going in and out. But how is it that you found out about Camp Agape, first of all? And then from what Pastor Roy is saying is that you get to watch videos of the kids at Camp Agape, and at that point where your dad actually saw that. So how old were you, and how did you find out about the camp?
Well, actually, like my dad was saying, he was involved with Pastor Roy's ministry, the prison ministry, for a while. And I was around too. Whenever I could, I would stick around the ministry. I knew everybody. They were like, parents to me too. And so I was always involved in the ministry, and I would go to the church services and things like that. And sometimes my dad would fall away and not be around for a while. But I still remained with the ministry. There were so many different aunties and uncles that always took care of me, and my grandma and things like that. So I stayed with the ministry, and in that, when I was 11, they had the first Camp Agape. And so because my dad had been in and out, things like that, I was able to be a participant in the camp. And I always kind of had a special place in the ministry because I've been there since before the camp had started. So they wanted to make sure that I went, and I went that year, and it was a great year. I mean, so it was really a different environment because all the kids are children of incarcerated parents.
Right.
Yeah,
And
so
Pastor Roy and I talked about it, how the kids come off the bus. A lot of them are angry. don't know why they're there. A lot of, well, you had the fortune of being in the ministry, so it was different for you. But I'm guessing that when you get on that bus or you're around those kids, you must see a lot of them just fighting it tooth and nail. Like, why am I going? Or some of them are just like, oh, I'm finally going to some place, you know, that'll be cool. But tell us a little bit about that mixture of kids that are there and what they're thinking as they're going in. Pastor Roy kind of told us the 4 different days, but I want to take it from the first experience so that people, when they're listening, if they want to get involved or they know kids of incarceration, kind of put them in the shoes of the kids as they're going.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of mixed emotions on the first day. There are some who are really not wanting to be there. That's usually the older teenagers who think they're too cool for it. And then because the ages are 7 to 17, so the younger ones, there's a lot of the boys who are just really rascal all the time. And, you know, they don't really know how to behave, so they're just troublemakers. I mean, on the bus, you know, they're standing up, they're doing everything they're not supposed to do. They're, you know, the girls, or a lot of them are just really quiet. And you see some people who know each other. A lot of siblings come into the camp. They're put into color groups, yeah, so sometimes they're in different color groups. But there is that, that different bond that everybody has. So it's different for everybody. But it's, some people are excited, some people not so much. Depends.
And when you are there, when you first go, how do you see the change? How did it affect you when you first went, your first year at 11?
Well, I don't know if Pastor Roy mentioned it, but on the different 4 days, they have the 4 themes, right? So there's trust, love, forgiveness, hope, and prayer. And those are really awesome to just, because they center the day around those themes. Yeah, so they learn encouraging scriptures about that theme. They learn just the type of games that they do, the activities they do are all focused on that. So really getting it into them that, okay, with trust, we know that you have a lot of walls, and we want to show you that we love you unconditionally. That your parents do love you as well. And so they really just pour love into the kids all weekend. And it day by day, it breaks down more things for them. They learn how to trust. And
I was telling Pastor Roy, when I see those videos that go out every year to encourage people to come and volunteer, you see the different stages in that short video. You actually see the different stages, and at the end, when everybody's just they're giving up all that anger, and the trust is a big one. And we also talked about how I noticed that there was a girl that gave a testimony about forgiveness, which I imagine is one of the hardest things to do when you feel you're so abandoned, and some of these kids are abused, no parental guidance, just left on their own basically. And I imagine the living conditions are not, a place of trust to begin with. So I just wanted the listeners to know how valuable this camp is, and also talked about the full circle, because now that you're in there, right, the kids, then the parents get to see the video of it. So Dennis, why don't you tell us a little bit about when you first saw the video, or that first year? Did they share the videos with the incarcerated parents or the people in prison?
Well, I was in Ochiposi at the ending part of this my run, so it's hard to be lucky you can watch TV,
Oh.
But I was aware of the camp going on, and I used to feel really bad and realized that from the choices I made, I'm sitting here, and I could have been with Roy. And I used to think about that in the beginning. For several years, I could have been with him, and my life would have been different. But I chose to do drugs and had fun being on the street. That I gave that up. But then when I'm sitting in jail, or when I'm by myself, even high, I feel guilty, like I could have been there. And then I get angry and I withdraw, and it is harder to come back for me. So it took years. But when I got out, was automatic, I've got to go to the camp. It's been so many years, and I finally can go. So I went there, and I went as a volunteer, and I could see the kids really hurt. Somebody I knew, their son came and he was really angry. But in one day, he was up and reading his journal. He learned how to journal, and he was the first to share.
Wow.
So, I keep thinking of in Matthew in the Bible. He says, like, don't, let me paraphrase. He says, like, don't brush off the kids, because these are the ones that these are the ones that you gotta have on heart, like just like the children. So never push them away. You gotta come to me with a heart like theirs. And when I seen that, I seen kids change. Like, it took me years to change, but I saw kids change over a weekend. My friend Kyoki, he was in a prison ministry, and a mentor, and he told me two boys are really hard hit, but after Wendy's testimony and Wendy pointed me out that her dad is finally here, it really broke the kids. They just broke down and cried. So I saw that happening. Then I started to read first, because when I went there, I just thought, well, that's the least I can do, volunteer, and I can see what's really going on. I had no idea what was really going on. I just went as a volunteer, and I started to catch on as I watched the children. But when Wendy and I finally, she shared, and I went up and asked her to forgive me, and listening to her and all the anger and the feelings of abandonment, and I thought, wow, did I do all that? I never know I was that bad. I didn't realize that she was going through so much. And of course, when I used to come home, she wouldn't show that. So kids are really great actors. So I took it as, well, I'm not too bad then,
Yeah.
So, but going to camp and seeing the kids, and then Wendy and I getting together, and I thought, wow, God, because I know that it was orchestrated. I could tell because my movements were different, my dress was different. I left things back in my tent, and sometimes I notice I do things I don't know why, but I just go with it because I know something is going to happen, and that's what happened that day. And it was the beginning of healing, because even though I went to the camp, doesn't automatically fix everything, but it was the beginning of me learning what my daughter and other kids go through, what I did, and how there's a way right in front of us that can fix it, that can help us heal.
And that's the full circle that Pastor Roy is talking about then. And the I can see in the beginning where it was mostly for the kids, but when the parents get involved, and then, that's where the full circle comes in, and that's the benefit of it all.
Wendy's role is different from mine. Like, mine is now, I'd like to share with people that were in my shoes that, come to the camp. So we went on the radio the other day, and they asked if we had anything else to say, and I raised my hand. I said, yeah, you guys, get off your bunks and we'll register your kids, so when you get out, you can be part of it. And it's gonna be worth your while. Because I could just picture them listening to the radio on the bunks in prison.
But it's good from coming someone like was in their shoes, like you said, how much it affects the kids. They have no idea how much the kids are suffering outside of. They figure they're in jail, so they're paying the full consequence, but it's not true. It's friends, it's families, and it's mostly the kids. And especially, I imagine if it's, you were the only parent available to them, so now where do they go? I mean, some of them end up in foster care, and that's really scary for them, and they shut up even more. I mean, they hold things in. And I was telling Pastor Roy that kids easily can be great actors, and also their hearts hardened, hardened. They become very isolated, and they become chameleons. They're really good actors. If they're put in this certain situation, okay, I'm gonna be happy. I'm gonna make like nothing's wrong. Kids are very intelligent. They're very smart, and they know how to hurt. Keep things in, and they become hurt. And then Pastor also said that 8 out of 10 kids end up in prison. Well, it's because hurt people hurt others. So it becomes a cycle, that outside cycle. But then if you can take it from within, reach the kids to reach the parents, the parent comes out, they work together, right? So tell us, when you went in at 11, in the camp, and was involved every single year. So this will be, you started from the beginning, you'll be involved, this is your 9th year. Tell us what your role is now. Now that you're not, the kids are called angels.
Yes.
And then there's, after that, if you get involved, at a more further level, what is that called and what do you do?
Well, there's lots of different ways to participate in the camp. There's of course, to be a mentor. So what a mentor is, that's what I've been for the past few years. And that's basically really getting in with the kids. There's volunteers that help anywhere that's needed. They don't actually get to be with the kids too much, though. The mentors really get to do that. And so the mentors are really the ones who are just shown how to love the kids, no matter what, and really be with them.
They don't have that.
Yeah, a lot of things that they're gonna experience there is just something they never experienced before. And that's why when you are mentors, we have training really on how to work with the kids, because sometimes the kids will be pretty rascal. Sometimes they'll swear at you. Sometimes and we learn how to react lovingly, because we don't want to react the same way that their parents would react, or the same way,
because it wouldn't
they would feel rejected,
sense, right?
The same way they would get the same kind of punishment as scolding, just like home, but to have somebody react like in a loving way, and just understand that they're just really hardened inside,
they are hardened. So you were talking about the mentorship.
Yes.
Until my phone went off.
Yes, it's a really rewarding thing, but it takes a lot of the training and really being prepared for it, because it is something that you can really get affected by too. I mean, the kids are really, really broken inside.
They are.
And we have it's called cabin time. So at the end of the night, every night we have cabin time. It's kind of, everybody just gets in their cabins, sit around in a circle, and we just really talk about the day. What did we do today? We talk about the theme of the day and how we saw the theme in other people. The mentors are able to really say, Jody, I saw that you really showed trust today when you let go of that rope and you let yourself swing, and Mary, you did a great job of loving on someone when she was afraid. Things like that, just encouraging and stuff like that. And towards the end of the week, the kids get to open up more, and we ask them, more personal questions about, how they feel. How did they feel about the forgiveness night? Normally, Pastor Roy asked me to speak about forgiveness, and it's funny because every year I speak, but every year I let a little bit more go. You know what I mean?
That's how it is.
Yeah. So really being able to just talk about how I went through the same thing that the kids went through, and to see myself now. I mean, I'm 21 now. I started when I was 11 in the camp, and it gets deep to me about how when I hear the stories that the kids go through. I mean, things that I went through too, even worse than that. And for the kids to just cry and say, how come he doesn't love me, or how come my daddy's not around, things like that.
Right.
They just tend to open that up because they close that away away, And in camp we peel off that onion, and we just get to the root of it, and it's a lot of healing that they go through.
Needs a lot of healing. And as I mentioned in my interview with Pastor Roy, the forgiveness part and the video that I watch, to promote Camp Agape gets me all the time, because once the kids learn how to release, and I imagine it helps the parents too to know that they're forgiven, because the parents are in there for a reason, because they've got stuff going on. They know they need to learn how to forgive themselves, on top of everything. So it is full circle. And when we took that little break, you mentioned about how the video is shown remotely to the people in Arizona, and Pastor Roy and I touched on that, where the prisoners are sent to the mainland because we just don't have room here. And they are the ones that are isolated and affected more because they don't have any anybody coming to visit them. And then the kids feel even worse too because they, now their parents are not only in jail, but they're far away. So having that on video and them watching it really affects them positively to know that once I get out, like you were saying, you want to be part of it, right? And
you have no idea. I just thought it was right, but it's like I had a crash course in what children went through, like what Wendy went through, watching all the different kids at different ages. So it was like I could see her at different ages and how she really was reacting, how it affected her. So I learned at camp as I watched the children. Then I felt more responsible to, they went through so much work, and I'm here, and my part, now that I understand better what they went through or what she went through, that what is my part in this? So the first part was volunteering, and for me now it's encouraging or kind of egging on the people in jail to get your child in there, and because Wendy was there, it was automatic that I have to go. It wasn't like I didn't want to go. I wanted to go, but I had no idea what I was going to learn watching and how I was going to feel and the healing that began with Wendy and I.
I think that's the really important part is the part of healing, right? And that's the part that it has to come to. So it builds up to that point. And then when people can start being more open about their feelings, that's the beginning.
Yeah, it's enough to really make me feel better about myself. I can better forgive myself because I know exactly what, or pretty close what I did to hurt her. And the camp encouraged me to if you really want to continue and heal your relationship with your daughter, you cannot be that old man you was before. So I had to do different things, and I told myself, well, you got to do everything different. I mean, not wear different clothes and stuff, but just
your choices.
Yeah, I had to use my time wisely, plan my day, challenge myself. So I challenged myself by going to school. And what happened was I went to face Judge because I forgot to call for my color one day. And because he saw how well I was doing for the last couple of years, he's going to take me off early off of probation. So that's one of our rewards of doing good. But my life is so good now, and I think the camp really started it out.
Oh yeah,
because
definitely.
The guilt of my daughter, there's a separation. We were so close when she was little. I bring up things that she don't even remember. So, but I remember. I can remember just about every year of her growing up and visiting me in prison. I remember all those things. And I cherish those things, but she doesn't have an idea. She was just little, But I just want to tell you a story. When she was like almost 3 years old, I used to play with her in Waiava, and that's a minimum camp, and she used to barely climb up on the bench and jump, and I'd catch her. And at one time she was sitting up and she stood up and we wasn't playing anymore, but she jumped towards me.
No.
And I reacted and I caught her and I said, "Wendy, you have to be careful." And she said, "Daddy, you have to catch me." I thought that was so cute, but
yeah, those are precious memories.
Yeah, so I got a lot of those, but so what do I do now? Do I just continue, go back and selfishly go back to hell, or do I change my life? And I'm over 60 years old, so before I used to think this was my life already. I'm one of those in society that goes in prison. But again, I talk about Hope Probation because Hope Probation really gave me hope. and it gave me a chance to change, and it closely monitored me, like just about every day. So like I said, you get tired of going through that revolving door. So eventually, flash incarceration or flash consequences gets to you. It's a really good learning thing. It's just like with children. They do something wrong, you correct them right away and move on.
Right.
And finally, that's how we are being treated when we do wrong things in society. And I think that really made a difference.
So it sounds like what really worked for you is that program, right? As well as seeing, what happened with your daughter Wendy, and that together.
And getting
put
old.
You together.
And getting old, because it's like, okay, how you really want to live and accept, and I joke around with my friends are retiring, so it's time for me to go to work, and they all got the education now. I'm getting mine, and I'm just gonna do the best I can. And it's
never too late.
Yeah, it's never too late, but what took me so long?
But anyway, I want to thank you guys for coming and sharing your true story, because that's very courageous. But we all know that when we share our testimonies is when we can reach people. And so I want to encourage people to, Wendy, you can give that website again of Camp Agape?
Yes, all the information, any type of sign up, any donations, anything is all on the website, www.campagapehawaii.com.
So in any way that you can help through volunteer work, donations, any kind of support, just go on there. And when we had our segment with Pastor Roy, we even talked about hopefully the listeners out there can start planting and shadowing the program in different parts of the nation as well as worldwide, because this show is not just in Hawaii, but it's reaching people all over the nation, just because of it's on Stitcher Radio and iTunes and YouTube, so anybody can listen and hear anytime. And so we're hoping that this goes farther out than our little place in the middle of the ocean in Hawaii, but also, I understand it's in Oregon already, and one's going to happen in California soon. And so we're hoping that the rest of the nation will pick this up, because we know that every state has this situation. And we want to see that full circle, and then have other people do their Camp Agapes. Because what is the definition of agape?
Unconditional love.
Unconditional love. And that's something that the kids get there, like you're a mentor, so you understand that, like you mentioned, when the kids get, just stubborn, or they're not ready to give themselves, that's when the patience and the love, the unconditional love is called for. And when you show them that, they learn that same thing and pass it on. And then the parents get to see how the kids are opening up. So it's that full circle thing again. So I'm glad that you guys decided to come on the show. And we just pray that this reaches a lot of people so they can start their own, Camp Agape. So thank you again, Wendy.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
And what we usually do is we shaka out for the video. And in the audio, we say aloha and a hui ho.
Aloha and a hui ho.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Legal Advice in Paradise podcast. For more information, visit www.legaladviceinparadise.com.